Right in the heart of Asia, there are lands that defy all geographical logic. Giant sandstone pillars soar thousands of meters high, looking like the backdrop of a fantasy planet. A flimsy wooden walkway clings tightly to a sheer cliff face 1,000 meters up. And razor-sharp peaks are separated by bottomless abysses. Many mountains are shaped by the wind. There are cliffs carved vertically by water. And there are even massifs pierced through to leave a giant hole. A few places look completely surreal. Others push humans to the absolute edge of fear. These are the most dangerous mountain regions in China, so bizarre that no one believes they are real. Mount Hua A thin ridge of rock rises up among the deep valleys in central China. At the highest point, a white temple stands right on the edge of the abyss. It is so small it looks like it was placed into the landscape using special effects. This is Mount Hua. The golden summit sits at an elevation of about 1,665 meters, where the Guanyin Temple occupies an area of less than 6 square meters. To get up here, you have to climb stairs that hug the cliff face. People walk one after another through a narrow path, while a deep drop is just a few steps away. In the surrounding area, cable cars cross the valley, suspension bridges hang in midair, but no modern structure can compare to the unimaginable sight at the Golden Summit. Gao Yiling. Viewed from above, the smooth rock formations wind like a giant group of dragons submerging themselves in the Emerald Lake. You are standing before Gao Yiling, a unique Danxia geological wonder. Wind and rain have eroded the cliffs over millions of years. Water has carved deep into the valley, creating water channels that hug the base of the mountains. The result is a massive flooded stone maze. Trees cover the peaks in green, while down below, tiny vehicles still run on the single road. The cliffs here are steep and perilous. Walkways without handrails sit right next to yawning abysses. Originally not built for regular transit, but to challenge your courage. This wonder used to be isolated, but recently it suddenly exploded in popularity thanks to drone footage on social media. Those red ridges are still there, casting their reflections on the lake every sunset. Wudang Mountains. The Wudang Mountains are not for those seeking an easy trip. This Taoist sanctuary is an insane, ancient architectural complex, clinging tightly to the cliffs at an altitude of over 1,600 meters. Human intervention here is truly special. They relied on the steep cliffs to build Taoist temples with red brick walls and sprawling jade green tiled roofs. Not only testing physical endurance, Wudang also battles the weather. In winter, this entire 1,000-year-old structure turns into a pure white ice and snow castle. If you want to touch the Golden Summit, you must pay with physical stamina. The only way up is via steep stone stairs, carved straight into the heart of the mountain. It is exactly this isolated environment that created the cradle of Tai Chi. Here, Taoist monks turned the edge of the abyss into their training ground, utilizing the danger itself to practice and seek enlightenment. Mount Laojun. Located in central China, Mount Laojun is considered one of the most prominent Taoist complexes in the country. At over 2,200 meters high, shrines with golden roofs emerge amid a sea of clouds. They cling to steep, rocky points, with almost no flat ground for construction. The complex is divided into two tiers. Below, rows of shrines are packed closely together. Above, many structures sit on isolated high peaks, connected by narrow bridges. The journey to access this area begins with a steep staircase system. Some sections of the path are only wide enough for one person to pass through. In winter, snow and ice cover the forest and the temple roofs. When the sunlight touches the golden tiles, the entire complex appears as if it is floating above the clouds. Mount Tianzhu. Leaving the pagoda roofs amidst the sea of clouds at Emei, the landscape shifts to a massive granite block sliced into a series of jagged peaks. Mount Tianzhu is in Anhui province, where Tianzhufeng becomes the most prominent highlight of the entire complex. This stone pillar stands nearly 1,490 meters high, reaching straight up above the forested mountain slopes. The terrain here mainly consists of sheer granite blocks, divided by narrow crevices and deep valleys. The walkways skirt the mountainsides, with many sections squeezed between two cliffs or opening up right on the edge of a drop. At the mysterious maze, large boulders stack on top of each other to form a network of narrow caves and winding paths. Further out, Liandan Lake is nestled among the high peaks, serving as a rare flat space amidst the steep terrain. From above, the whole complex appears as a group of mountains anchored by the isolated Tianzhufeng stone pillar standing in the center. Mount Danxia. Red stone pillars stand straight up amidst the dense forests of Guangdong. Some blocks are isolated like a tower. Others look like massive islands floating in a sea of trees. The Chinese call this terrain Danxia. Over time, weathering and erosion have cut the sandstone layers into sheer cliffs and deep crevices. They have also created oddly shaped stone columns. The most famous are the Yang Yuan stone and Yin Yuan stone, two structures that immediately make many people think of male and female genitals. At Jinxian, there is a temple tucked neatly under a large rock roof. The structure clings precariously to a recess in the mountainside. As your view pulls back, it almost disappears. Only the towering rocks remain amidst the forest. Huangshan. You do not come to Huangshan to stand and watch from a distance. You come to walk right into the middle of the sheer granite peaks. The journey begins on stone steps cutting through narrow ravines. There are places squeezed tightly between two giant boulders. There are spots where right after a turn. The path opens straight down into a deep abyss. On one side is a cliff. On the other side is an empty space covered in clouds. Every landscape that opens up makes the road ahead even more unpredictable. At the Sea-High Grand Canyon, you can take a funicular train through the gorge, while simultaneously seeing trails continuing to hug the mountainside above. Passing the largest slopes, the view suddenly widens. Pointed peaks line up one after another. Pine trees grow directly out of the rocks. Mountain ridges stretch all the way to the horizon. Then the clouds begin to rise. The entire valley disappears. Only the high peaks protrude from the white sea, a sight that only appears after you have climbed up here yourself. Mount Emi. Clouds spill over the edge of the mountain and then suddenly part. Behind them is an entire temple complex at an altitude of over 3,000 meters. This is Mount Emi, one of the most important Buddhist sacred sites in China. At the square, a gold-plated statue of Samantabhadra rises above the multi-tiered temple roofs. Stone gates leading into the pagodas stretch almost right to the edge of the cliff. Beyond the railing, the cliff drops straight down into the White Sea. Fog can roll in within just a few minutes. The horizon disappears. The space around the temple area instantly becomes unpredictable. When the clouds close in around the golden summit, the golden statue and pagoda roofs seem to detach from the ground, a scene that looks impossible to be real, yet still draws thousands of people to visit. Zhangjiajie Great Wall. North of Beijing, the Great Wall of China suddenly loses all its neatness. Zhangjiajie is one of the most treacherous sections of the structure. The wall runs tight along the mountain ridge, constantly climbing up to high peaks and then plunging into deep ravines with almost no transition. The terrain here is a series of steep and jagged mountains. Many sections of the wall lie on massive inclines, flanked on both sides by deep abysses and successive mountain ranges. From above, the Great Wall no longer looks like a separate structure, but becomes a thin, white line, bending along every jagged tooth of the rocky mountain terrain. Stone Forest Scenic Area. There is no single mountain peak for you to conquer here. The entire ground has stood straight up. Welcome to the Stone Forest in Yunnan, a vast karst region where thousands of limestone pillars jut out in all sorts of shapes. Over millions of years, rainwater dissolved the limestone along the fissures, separating the surface into independent stone blocks. The result is a dense landscape of tall stone pillars, narrow crevices, and enclosed clearings. The pathways constantly change. Some sections are wedged between two high rock walls, while others open up into patches of land completely surrounded by stone pillars. At Naigu, dark-coloured rocks stand closely together and stretch beyond the line of sight, making the whole area look like a forest turned to stone. Mount Huangshan. The rocks at Huangshan do not rise into slender pillars. They bulge up into giant red walls amid the forests of Hunan. This is a part of the Chinese Danxia landform system. The red rock layers have been weathered and sliced into sheer cliffs, narrow valleys, natural stone arches, and oddly shaped mountain blocks. The most prominent is Zhangjiajie, a rock formation with a narrow base but a bulging upper body, creating a sense of imbalance. At Zhangjiajie, the path running through the mountain crevice is extremely narrow, flanked by high cliffs that almost close up overhead. Seen from the Fuyi River, the Danxia blocks line up one after another along the water edge, forming a red wall stretching throughout the valley. Mount Hua. The further up Mount Hua you go, the more barren the landscape becomes. As the highest peak of the Qinling Mountains, Baxiantai reaches an altitude of over 3,767 meters and is a striking high point in central China. The terrain changes distinctly with elevation. The forests gradually thin out and then disappear, giving way to rocky mountain slopes, large boulder fields, and glacial lakes scattered high up. Above 3.000 meters, the ground is mostly bare rock and the undulating terrain of high mountain ridges. Dark lakes are nestled among the rocks, with virtually no trees around. When you reach Baxiantai, all that is left ahead is a desolate mountain peak with the entire Qinling mountain range stretching out below. Jianmen Pass. Leaving the barren summit region of Mount Taibai, the road into Sichuan is blocked by two gigantic stone walls. In the middle of that narrow gap is Jianmen Pass. The ancient checkpoint sits exactly at the choke point of a natural mountain corridor, where vertical cliffs press tightly against each other. From the foot of the mountain, the pathway skirts the rocky slope and then continues to narrow into the bird path. Clinging directly to the cliff, one side is an almost vertical rock face, while the other side opens down into a deep valley. Viewed from afar, the entire route almost disappears among the cliffs. Only the pass remains at the narrowest point, like a stopper between two massive stone walls. Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. From the city of Lijiang, a white mountain range has completely taken over the horizon. Before your eyes now is Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. The chain of rocky peaks stretches out, with the highest peak reaching about 5,596 meters. Snow and ice settle between deep ravines, creating continuous grayish-white mountain slopes. The cable car takes you over the forests and rocky slopes up to an altitude of over 4,500 meters. From here, The landscape is nothing but snow, rubble, and ice walls exposed among the crevices. Below are the blue lakes of Blue Moon Valley, while above, the snowy peaks continue to soar beyond all tourist trails. Mount Mingyu. Hidden behind the green forest canopy of Yichun City in Jiangxi Province is the Mount Mingyu Scenic Area. This place is famous for its primeval forests, hot springs, and a system of waterfalls cascading down the mountainsides. The Yungu Faibao waterfall plunges off the cliff with a drop of nearly 120 meters, pouring down into the forest, blanketing the mountain slope. Up high. The Qingyan Cliff Path winds around the cliff face at an altitude of over 1,000 meters. There are sections where the path is submerged in the forest and places where it juts completely out from the mountainside, revealing a vast empty space below. Near the summit, Moon Lake rests among the woods and high mountain ranges, creating a placid body of water amidst the rugged surrounding terrain. Ulaanbaatar Volcano Geopark. Amidst the Inner Mongolia grasslands, the ground suddenly bulges into giant black cones. The Ulaanbaatar volcanic cluster appears right in the middle of the prairie. Dozens of craters are scattered around, forming circles and steep slopes that are clearly visible from above. Some peaks have been covered by grass, while many places still expose layers of black, red, and brown volcanic rock. Slag fragments cover the ground entirely, making the landscape completely different from the surrounding steppe. The road runs straight between the craters. From above, the black cones line up one after another, all the way to the horizon, making the whole area look like the surface of another planet. Yangtze Valley. When night falls over the canyon, hundreds of windows start to glow amid the cliffs. This is not a CGI movie scene, but Huangshan Valley in Jiangxi. Rows of houses are built in multiple tiers on the mountainside, looking down at the stream flowing through the valley floor. The structures do not sit on a continuous flat surface. They cling to every recess of the cliff face, connected by bridges, stairs, and suspended walkways above the water. Below, waterfalls pour over the rock layers. Above, the houses are practically stacked on top of each other, making the entire settlement look like a city built vertically in the middle of a gorge. Mount Hua. At Mount Hua, the concept of a normal flat road simply does not exist. The paths here pretty much climb straight up the rock face. The mountain is located in Shanxi province and consists of 5 main peaks, rising from a colossal granite block. The South Peak is the highest, reaching about 2,160 meters. These stairs are carved directly into the cliff. There are sections so steep that the person in front is virtually standing right on the head of the person behind them. Past the Black Dragon Ridge, the pathway narrows onto a tight mountain ridge. Looking out, you will see empty space opening up on both sides. Below the South Peak is the plank walk in the sky, where wooden boards are attached to an almost vertical cliff. When the view pulls back, the walkways disappear entirely. Only the granite walls towering into the sky remain. Zhangjiajie National Forest Park. Over 3,000 stone pillars shoot straight up from the forest in southern China. Many columns are more than 200 meters high, standing isolated like giant towers. This is Zhangjiajie National Forest Park, a part of the Wulingyuan Scenic Area. Over millions of years, water and weathering widened the cracks in the quartz sandstone layer. Solid mountain ranges were gradually carved up. Only tall, narrow, and nearly vertical stone columns are left behind. Down below, Golden Whip Stream flows through the bottom of the canyon. Dense forests cover every gap between these stone pillars. Then the clouds flood into the valley. The bases of the stone columns vanish. Thousands of peaks seem to float amidst a white sea. Right in the middle of that scenery is the Beilong Elevator, a glass structure attached directly to the rock face. In just a few minutes, it takes you up to an altitude of over 300 meters and reveals the entire stone labyrinth of Zhangjiajie. Mount Hua. Instead of hiking on the mountainside, the journey at Mount Hua starts from the river flowing between the cliffs. The Nine Bend River constantly changes direction among the red sandstone blocks of Fujian province. Each bend hides the section ahead and unveils a new cliff. The mountain blocks stand separate, 200 to 400 meters above the riverbed. The rocky bases drop almost straight into the water, while the peaks are completely covered by vegetation. From down on the river, here the red cliffs appear and then disappear behind every turn. The water flow continuously closes and opens the mountain layers, making the whole area feel like a massive stone maze. Dagu Glacier. Leaving the forests of Sichuan, the road continues to climb higher. The trees gradually thin out. Up ahead is nothing but snow, rock, and ice. Right before your eyes now is Dagu Glacier. The journey stops at the observation deck located at an altitude of about 4,860 meters. Surrounding it are glaciers and white-capped peaks. Down below there are still lakes, alpine meadows and woods. But the higher you go, The green quickly vanishes. The landscape is reduced to black rock, blue ice, and mountain slopes almost entirely devoid of plant life. At the summit, the terrain opens up into a giant void among the snow and ice. The mountain ranges stretch out at nearly the same elevation. Standing in the middle of it all, you no longer feel like you are in Sichuan. Instead, it feels as if you have just stepped into an entirely different world. Tianmen Mountain. From the center of Zhangjiajie city, a cable car line flies over the rooftops and then heads straight into the mountain cliff. The journey is over 7.4 kilometers long and overcomes an elevation drop of nearly 1,280 meters. The cabin passes over valleys and sheer forested slopes before reaching the top surface of Tianmen Mountain. Down below is the Tongtian Avenue, a road of nearly 11 kilometers with 99 overlapping bends winding through the canyon. At the end point, 999 steps lead up to Tianmen Cave, a massive opening piercing right through the cliff. On the peak, the walkways continue to hug the edge of the abyss. Viewed from above, the cable cars, the road, and the stairs all converge on a giant hole nestled in the middle of the cliff face. Mount Fanjing. After the mammoth winding roads of Tianmen, the landscape completely transforms. Before you is the red clouds golden summit of Mount Fanjing, located in Guizhou province. The rocky block shoots straight up from the mountainside. The peak is split in two. A small shrine is placed on each side. In the middle is a narrow stone bridge connecting across the gap. Mount Fanjing belongs to the Wuling mountain range. The elevation ranges from around 500 meters to over 2,500 meters. Topographical layers stack on top of each other. The rocky peaks stand isolated from the rest. Then the clouds roll up the mountainside. The base of the red cloud's golden summit vanishes. Only the two shrines protrude amidst the white sea. The whole mountain peak looks as if it is hovering in the air. flaming mountains. No forests, almost no shade, just red rock and heat stretching all the way to the horizon. These are the Flaming Mountains, the mountain range running through the Turpan Basin in Xinjiang. The red sandstone layers stretch for nearly 100 kilometers. Over time, erosion has cut them into a series of deep parallel gullies running along the mountainside. The entire terrain is virtually barren. In summer, the sunlight beats straight down on the rock surface. The air above shimmers from the heat. From afar, the dark red ridges look like waves of fire rolling across the desert. Right at the foot of the mountain is a giant thermometer erected amidst the red rocks. It is not just for decoration. It is to show the extreme heat levels that this area typically endures during the summer. Zhangjiajie. The road leading into Zhangjiajie does not go down into a wide valley, but tunnels deep between the mountain ranges, until an enclosed space appears surrounded on all four sides by cliffs. Zhangjiajie is located in Gansu province. Its name means the stone box, because the entire residential area is enclosed within massive mountain walls. The village sits at an elevation of about 3,000 meters. Surrounding it are much higher, jagged, rocky peaks, some soaring to about 4,500 meters. The steep mountainsides are covered by forests and terraced fields, while the houses are distributed in multiple tiers according to the terrain. From down in the valley, the cliffs seem to be closing in around the residential area, turning Zhangjiajie into a natural fortress in the middle of the plateau. Shuangta Mountain. Two rock formations stand side by side on the hills near Chengde. The bases are narrow, the tops widen out, and on each block sits an ancient pagoda. That is Mount Shuangta, or Twin Pagoda Mountain. The two stone pillars have been eroded into an unbalanced shape, with almost vertical rock faces on all four sides. The tops are just tiny patches of land resting on isolated rock blocks. From below, the pagodas look like they are sitting on two natural pedestals that are far too narrow for any construction. Only when viewing from above can people clearly see the peculiar shape of the two stone pillars and the isolated distance between them and the surrounding mountain slopes. Mount Yandang. On a nearly vertical cliff face, tiny human figures are moving across the empty space. On the cliffs of Mount Yandang, the Via Ferrata route is made up of metal steps and a steel cable system attached directly to the rock face. Yandang is famous for its ancient volcanic terrain, comprising many jagged stone peaks, sheer cliffs, and deep ravines in Zhejiang. This route clings horizontally along the mountainside, passing through protruding rock sections and the gaps between two cliffs. Below is the valley and small villages nestled deep at the foot of the mountain. From a drone perspective, the cable system practically disappears completely, leaving only a line of people moving across the giant stone wall. No matter how far science advances, nature always knows how to make us bow in awe. Among the unbelievable mountains just shown, which location left you the most awestruck and challenged your courage the most? Leave a comment down below. Do not forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss out on the next magnificent journeys of discovery. Thank you, and see you next time.